Hey guys, it's Drift here, how are you all doing today? I'm actually doing fantastic because finally I have something else to talk about aside from Spider-Man and Batman content. Shout out to Colin as he gave me the idea to talk about Captain America and quote-unquote the worst take on MCU Cap. I love the first Avengers, it's one of my favourite films of all time, and I've never talked about Captain America before on the channel, so let's get started.
And hates Captain America. Please allow me to explain.
No, I don't think I will.
When the film starts, he gets an okay introduction, but it's ultimately quite shallow. We go from him learning that he's in the future, straight to him getting new missions from S.H.I.E.L.D. The film would greatly benefit from learning more about his perspective on the new world, what his thoughts are on the technology and culture.
The first Avengers gives us multiple scenes of Captain America slowly adjusting to modern life and also joking about the fact that he's the old guy out of time. Like in the lab with Bruce and Tony, the multiple scenes with Coulson, Nick Fury at the gym, etc. Even the infamous, "oh, I understood that" reference. Like, there are multiple instances within the film of them addressing or pointing out the fact that Captain America is a man out of time, but they do it in a very subtle way because that's not the main focus of the plot.
How he feels about losing his old life and other things of that nature.
I mean, it's pretty obvious in the gym scene at least that Captain America potentially has signs of PTSD or trauma or struggling to adjust to modern life. Like, he's clearly taking out his anger and pent-up frustrations on something, and that's the only way he knows how to do it in the modern world.
This eventually gets addressed in Winter Soldier, but that doesn't retroactively save this film from lacking content.
Holy fucking shit, that was a bold claim. Also, yeah, no shit Captain America the Winter Soldier will address on this topic more because it's a solo Captain America film. Unlike the Avengers where there's 5 other characters with 3 of them having their own solo films, you know, Captain America can't have the entire film to himself. But with something like Winter Soldier, yeah, they can spend the majority of the film on his character because it's a solo film. Yeah, that's kind of how these things work.
A severely missed opportunity is giving us Captain America's first impressions of Tony Stark. Steve and Howard Stark were once very close, and Tony could serve as the gateway that would connect Steve from the old world to this new one.
I'm sorry, did we watch the same film? It's pretty obvious that Captain America has had briefing about Tony Stark and the Avengers Protocol, or at the very least something similar, and when he actually meets Tony Stark, well, he's almost disgusted by his character. He's arrogant, he struts around the Helicarrier like he owns the place, he's got an ego the size of Mars, but in fairness, he does have the intelligence to back it up, but his area of expertise is something Captain America doesn't understand, so obviously he's gonna have a very strong disconnect to Stark, assuming that he could even connect to him at all, because his personality is something that Cap cannot respect.
Instead, their introductions are relatively glossed over.
For context, this specific scene is where they have captured Loki, and it's mere moments before Thor arrives and fucks everything up. So, yeah, I'm not exactly surprised that they didn't have time for a whole heart-to-heart one-to-one, you know?
With their first conversations being largely about their mission. It would be nice to see Cap's reaction to just how far Stark Industries progressed.
We literally do get that later on in the film, where Cap makes a remark about Stark Tower being that ugly, big-ass building in the middle of New York. He clearly doesn't respect the way that Stark has gone about carrying out the business, at least at first. Also, for a guy who's been asleep for over 70 years, I'm pretty sure the progression of Stark Industries is the least of his worries right now.
And how he views Tony when compared to Howard. But no, instead of all that, we get constant references to the idea that he's dumb because he's old.
First of all, you contradict yourself here, because earlier in the video you say you wish that there were scenes of Captain America struggling to adjust to modern life, yet we literally get scenes of that in the Avengers, but it's very subtle and told in a comedic way. And I would also like to point out that we do get moments between Cap and Tony, like for example where the Mind Stone is affecting them all and he says what's on his mind. He doesn't view Tony Stark as anything more than an arrogant businessman.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
But he's not that thing though, guy's like a Stephen Hawking. He's like a smart person.
It may be magical, but it works an awful lot like a hydro weapon. I don't know about that.
Polarity long enough to disengage maglev, and that should...
Speak English!
Steve, tell me none of this smells a little funky, do you?
Monkeys. You don't understand.
I do.
I understood that reference.
You yourself, in your own video, show multiple scenes of Captain America struggling to adjust to modern life, and being unaware of modern references or modern culture or more recent history than what he's used to. You literally show that in your own video, yet you're still gonna pretend that the Avengers doesn't contain any of that? Holy fuck, we're off to a good start. And we're not even 3 minutes in.
And this is just an aside, but does anyone know what Captain America means when he says this line?
I went under. The world was at war. I wake up, they say we won. They didn't say what we lost.
I've seen this film about 800 times, and I could never figure it out.
The way that I interpret this scene is like this. Captain America went in the ice in the 1940s, and he believed that his sacrifice allowed the Allies to win the war, because obviously he was unconscious after that point, and he had no idea the atrocities that were committed, like for example with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as a result, whilst yes, the Allies did win the Second World War against the Nazis, unfortunately it came at a heavy price for both sides. Countless lives were lost, both friends, foes, family, everyone did suffer as a result of this titanic battle across the planet. So yes, that's likely what he meant by that. Sure, they won the battle, but the war took a huge toll on everyone.
I assume he's referring to World War II, but we did win that.
Yeah, because World War II was totally a no-diff scenario for the Allies, right? Right? You claim to have watched this film 800 times, it's really not that difficult to understand. I feel like you're being deliberately dishonest right now.
By we lost, does he mean that there's still problems in the world? Later on we find out that Hydra still exists, but at this point in the MCU, for all we know they've been defeated. In any case...
Again, I'm just assuming that my interpretation is correct, because I literally can't think of anything else he could be referring to. Because he raises a good point. At this point in time, Hydra isn't in the MCU, or like no one is aware of it anymore. So yeah, for all we know, he could very well be referring to the atrocities committed in World War II, and the lives lost.
This line comes off as a pretty glass-half-empty response towards winning World War II.
This motherfucker has lost 70 years of his life, and everyone that he loves, knew, or hated is buried 6 feet under, and he's struggling to adjust to a world that is alien from his perspective. Cut him some slack, you prick.
That whole event was kind of a big deal, and it was very hard, and he should know this. It's understandable if he's depressed about getting frozen, but if he should find levity anywhere, it should be in learning that his and everyone else's sacrifices during the war were not in vain.
Once again, there were countless lives lost in World War II. I mean, fuck, we have remembrance services even to this day commemorating those who lost their lives in World War II. Like, yeah, sure, we won, but there were so many atrocities committed from not just the enemy, but also the Allies. Like, everyone was just a prick. Because guess what? Wartime brings out the worst in everyone.
You would think that he would be a little bit more grateful and relieved.
How do you know he isn't? You gotta keep in mind as well, he's been taken from one impossible scenario, World War II, straight into another. Being thrust into a world 70 years into the future from his perspective with no one around to help him. That he recognizes anyways. Cut him some slack. He probably is still relieved, but at the end of the day, he's been thrust into the future and thrust almost immediately into another mission.
This is just an odd line in general. Joss, why did you write this?
It's a very powerful line, and I'm glad he wrote it, because it's a subtle reference to the fact that whilst indeed we won the war, countless lives were lost. Like, I don't know why you're dying on this point so much, it really isn't that deep.
Captain America's first fight scene is his battle with Loki, and I'll address the elephant in the room right away. This costume is atrocious.
Well, I'm sure that that's the one thing we can all agree on.
The way it conforms to Chris Evans' body makes him look small. It doesn't help that he has large, puffy gloves and boots. Plus this oversized rubber helmet that connects to a cloth costume. And why didn't they include a backside? Did they not think he would turn around?
At the very least, there is an in-universe explanation as to why the costume looks like this, because it was designed by Agent Coulson, who is a massive fanboy of Captain America. So modern technology is designing their own interpretation of something from the past, which is probably why it looks very out of place.
Tangent aside, Loki and Cap have a fight, and it's a bit of a struggle for him. That's all well and good, but then Iron Man suddenly appears, and Loki surrenders after taking just one hit from him. Granted, it was Loki's plan to surrender, but that's beside the point.
I'm sorry, are you unironically about to complain that Captain America took an L to Loki? A literal god? The same guy who 1v1'd Thor in the first Thor movie and did actually really well? Like, the fact that Captain America survived that fight at all whilst getting a few hits in of his own is extremely impressive. Also, fucking lol, of course Iron Man is gonna do better than Cap, because at this point in the MCU, he is way more powerful than Cap.
The way the fight is oriented makes Cap seem like a small fish in a large pond.
Completely ignoring the fact that once again a super soldier is going against a literal god.
Seeing him roll around and struggle so much seems kinda lame when compared to Iron Man, who just shows up and wins like it's nothing.
Three things here. Number one, Iron Man is more powerful than Captain America at this point in the MCU, so the fact that he does better than Cap should be expected. Number two, you yourself admitted that it was Loki's plan all along to surrender, so it's not like Iron Man just won a fight against Loki either in the Mark 6 armor. And number three, Captain America is one of the few Avengers who has actually 1v1'd every single threat that the Avengers has gone up against. In the 2012 film, he fought Loki. In Age of Extinction, lol. In Age of Ultron, which was also a Joss Whedon film, he fought Ultron in a 1v1. And in Infinity War, he took multiple fights against the Black Order members and had multiple 1v1 segments against Thanos himself. Which other Avengers have done that, aside from the top three most powerful ones, obviously?
This issue is made doubly apparent in the next fight scene that follows. Thor arrives to capture Loki, and Iron Man pursues him to do battle. When Cap tries to follow, Black Widow recommends that he stays behind because she thinks that he's too weak to help.
Oh wow, the trained assassin thinks that it's not a good idea for Captain America to pick a fight with a literal god. Wow, how nerfed Captain America is, am I right?
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
This scene is also repeated in Age of Ultron.
Well, he's definitely unhappy. I'm gonna try and keep him that way.
You're not a match for him, Cap.
Thanks, Barton.
You literally missed the point of these two scenes. Like, they literally flew right over your head. Captain America is fully aware of the fact that he stands no chance against Thor or Ultron. But guess what? That's not the point of his character. Do you understand why he says, I can do this all day? Captain America will fight for something that he believes in no matter what, to his very last breath. It doesn't matter whether he's physically outclassed or mentally outclassed. He will plant himself like a tree and fight forever. He can do this all day. Like, yeah, no shit, Cap 1v1's like the big bads of the verse. Like, fucking hell. Like, it's getting to the point where I have to ask you, like, what the fuck do you want Captain America to do? Like, I know he's OP as fuck in the comics, but at the end of the day, he's a twat with a frisbee.
When Captain America finally enters the fight, he uses his signature shield throw straight to the faces of Thor and Iron Man, and it literally has no effect on either of them.
Yes, because Captain America's intentions were to defuse the situation and to stop them from fighting. I feel like he would have thrown the shield a hell of a lot harder if he actually had the intentions of fucking them up.
They just seem mildly annoyed. He tells them to stop fighting, and Thor tries to kill him for it.
Oh, so you yourself admit that Cap was just trying to defuse the situation, yet magically that's not good enough for you? Also, conveniently glossing over the fact that Captain America successfully blocked a hit from Thor, the God of Thunder. You know, you were kind of gassing up Loki and how Cap stood no chance against him, yet you're gonna ignore the fact that he blocked a hit from Thor with fucking Mjolnir, with no less. You know, the same blows that not even the Hulk could block.
To the scenes in the Helicarrier, Captain America and Tony Stark are constantly arguing with each other.
And this is a problem how?
You would think that they'd have some semblance of respect for one another due to Cap's history with Howard Stark, but no.
I'm sorry, but at this point in the MCU, why would they have respect for each other? Captain America's only experience with Tony Stark is he's an arrogant prick who thinks that he's the boss of everyone, which is the literal antithesis of what he represents. Captain America would not defend someone like Iron Man. Contrastly, you have Tony Stark, who probably holds a level of resentment towards Captain America because, in his mind at least, Howard Stark gave more attention to Captain America than he did to his own son. Like, do you remember Iron Man 2? Like, I know there was that fantastic line from Howard Stark where he was like, yeah, my greatest creation is you, Tony. But this man grew up thinking that his dad neglected him. So yeah, he probably holds a level of resentment towards Cap because of that, despite the hugely iconic figure that he is.
Tony is constantly making jokes at Cap's expense, and Cap backfires at him like an insecure child.
Wow, these characters act in character, and that's a problem. Huh.
I get that we want to foreshadow Civil War, But isn't the point of Civil War that they were friends before they were enemies?
We literally get plenty of moments of them being quote-unquote friends in Age of Ultron, which is after the character arcs from this film have taken place. Like, stop.
Furthermore, Stark pretty much always comes out on top in these arguments.
Wow, the smart-ass genius who has spent all his life in the present wins the arguments against a man from the past, and you want a medal for pointing that out, Captain Obvious? The hilarious thing about that is that during one of their arguments, they directly influence one another's arcs, where Cap says to Tony that he's not the guy who would lay down his own life for other people, yet later on in the film, he's prepared to sacrifice his own life to save New York. And contrastly, when Tony says that everything special about you came out of a bottle, well, later on in Avengers Endgame, we see that this isn't the case. Sure, he became incredibly strong with the super soldier serum, but it's ultimately Cap's will, dominance, and character that allows him to become worthy of Mjolnir. Like, they literally influence each other's arcs, and it all started in this film. I don't know how you're not getting this.
He and Cap argue about S.H.I.E.L.D. hiding secrets, and Stark is right. Cap accuses Tony of being too self-centered to be a hero, and Tony proves him wrong by the end of the film.
Yeah, that's called character development. Also, by your own logic, Captain America proves Stark wrong in Avengers Endgame when he becomes worthy of Mjolnir. So, checkmate?
Tony claims everything special about Cap came out of a bottle, and based on this film alone, that's kind of an overstatement, if anything.
A friendly reminder that the first Avengers is heavily based around Tony Stark, Age of Ultron is based heavily around Captain America, Infinity War is heavily based around Thor, and Endgame is kind of a mix of all of the 6 Avengers. So the fact that Tony Stark has the most development in the first Avengers should honestly go without saying. Also, are you unironically serious about the whole everything special about you came out of a bottle? Like the same guy who would unironically gain the respect from a god of thunder and multiple assassins, an Iron Man himself, and the literal walking green earthquake that is the Hulk. All of these titanic characters would respect Captain America and accept him as the leader. Like, do you really think all of that respect came out of the super soldier serum?
But we'll get into more detail on that later. At one point, Cap starts to lose the verbal argument and resorts to physical threats.
Yes, because the Mind Stone is affecting all of the Avengers right now, including, most worryingly, Bruce Banner.
Which seems like something that would be very much beneath someone like Captain America.
Yes, funnily enough, because the Mind Stone is affecting all of them in this scene. You've watched this film 800 times, yet you still don't know this. I call bullshit.
Put on the suit. Let's go a few rounds.
You would think that someone with a strong moral compass like him would be mature enough to settle a squabble with an ally without resorting to violence.
Two things here. Number one, Captain America at this point in the MCU has basically no respect for Iron Man. Like, Tony Stark is arrogant, he's unlikable from Cap's perspective, so why the fuck would he respect him or even treat him as he would, like, treat someone like Bucky, for example? And number two, in the very next scene, when the Mind Stone stops affecting them all, Captain America works alongside Iron Man to repair the damage to the Helicarrier. Like, in the very next scene, they're able to work together, yet... fucking hell.
Plus, I don't think anyone really thinks he would win that fight. Fast forward again, and Loki's minions attack the Helicarrier. Let's do a rundown of everyone's mission during this scene. Fury and Hill defend the bridge, Thor battles the Hulk and tries to stop Loki, Black Widow escapes the Hulk and defeats Hawkeye, Iron Man repairs the Helicarrier. So what is Captain America's big important mission?
See that red lever? It'll slow the rotors down long enough for me to get out. Stand by it. Wait for my word.
Captain America's job in this scene is to defend his position and to prevent Tony Stark from being crushed by the blades. How is that not any more important than any of the other missions that the other characters have?
Stand next to the red lever until Iron Man tells him to flip it, and he can barely even do that one right. Why is he even here?
A friendly reminder that the reason he falls off the Helicarrier is number one because this fucking thing is falling out of the sky very slowly, and also because he's being shot at, and as far as we're aware at least, the current costume that he has is not bulletproof, so yes, if he gets shot between the eyes, he's dead.
Is there nothing more important we can think of for him? Are there not hundreds of trained grunts here who can do this same job and stand by the lever instead? This scene makes Captain America look like a complete fool.
He literally saves Tony Stark's life. Like, how is that not impressive? Also, keep in mind that Captain America had the physical strength to climb up a rope whilst dangling like hundreds of thousand feet in the air. Like, do you really think the random SHIELD agents would be able to replicate that?
He is constantly being made to look stupid for not being tech savvy. He struggles way too hard to fight just 3 nameless henchmen, and one of them almost wins. Captain America fails to stand by the red lever because he slips off the helicarrier like a moron and is left dangling for his life.
Yes, because he's being shot at and the helicarrier is slowly falling out of the sky. Not to mention that earlier on in the film, Black Widow remarks that they should go inside the helicarrier because it would get difficult to breathe because of the atmosphere. Captain America is essentially stood on the outside of the fucking thing. Not to mention, have you ever opened a door on an aeroplane when it's thousands of feet in the air? The change in pressure would be insane. The fact that Captain America could stand there at all is incredibly impressive.
He is at the complete mercy of this nameless dude. Meanwhile, Fury and Hill are dropping the other henchmen left and right.
Yes, because they're on the inside of the helicarrier and have defensive positions. Not to mention the random fucking agents that go after Captain America have gas masks and rebreathers, implying that on the outside of the helicarrier it would be very difficult to breathe. Cap, on the other hand, has none of that. Sure, he has superhuman biology, but he would still be at a disadvantage compared to those with special equipment.
Black Widow has an easier time fighting Hawkeye than Cap does fighting this random, irrelevant man. Cap doesn't even get to win in the end. Iron Man has to fly over and save the day. It should be noted that if you watch this film in isolation, you would barely know that Captain America is a super soldier.
Ah yes, you wouldn't know that Captain America is a super soldier. You know, the same guy who survived a 1v1 with Loki, the same guy who took a hit from Thor, who could kill Chitauri by the dozens. Yeah, you wouldn't think that that guy is a super soldier, right?
There's the punching bag scene, which is well and good, but aside from a few acrobatics, there isn't a whole lot that he does that Hawkeye or Black Widow couldn't also do.
Well, they aren't 1v1ing Loki in a straight up 1v1 fist fight, I can tell you that much.
There's a few situations in which those two probably would have done better. Now, this next critique is entirely subjective, but...
Hey, you guys aren't authorized to be in here.
Son, just don't.
A guy that looks like this is not nearly imposing enough to refer to someone as son.
I was wrong earlier. I thought that you were being dishonest, but now you're just being flat out stupid with your criticisms. This motherfucker is Captain America. Even with this stupid ass costume, he would still be instantly recognizable to an American citizen. So yes, he would have a commanding aura, especially if he has Black Widow and Hawkeye, 2 trained assassins following his lead. Like, are you fucking serious? Not to mention him calling him son. This motherfucker is almost 100 years old. He could call Nick Fury son.
Once the Chitauri battle begins, Captain America enters the fight, flailing helplessly in the Quinjet until it lands.
Like, this is the problem. Like, what the fuck else do you expect him to do? He doesn't have Spider-Man's powers. He can't fly like Thor. Like, he's got no chance of doing anything. He's not got a parachute, I don't think, either. All he can do is just ride it out. The fact that he survives it with basically no injuries is incredibly impressive, once again.
Black Widow and Hawkeye cover Cap so he can perform this super cool Nito running sequence, all for the sake of talking to this rando cop who immediately disrespects him and questions his authority before some conveniently placed aliens show up for him to show off with.
Why the hell should I take orders from you?
But, like, of all the Avengers that should be common knowledge to the people in this world at this point in the story, Captain America should be at the top of this list. Also, it's really not a good time to be asking for this dude's resume. I mean, if I was getting mugged in an alleyway, but Bruce Lee suddenly appeared to help me defend myself, I wouldn't be like, excuse me, I'm in the middle of something, could you go away?
Cap survives the ambush, kills the Chitauri with his bare fists and the shield, and stands there like a badass, and that's all he has to do to earn this fucker's respect. Like, he doesn't have to say a word, he just does his whole Captain America thing, and the cops instantly respect him. Like, what the fuck is the problem? Captain America could give orders to the fucking soldiers in World War II because he was operating within his jurisdiction as a member of the army. However, he has no authority over the cops of modern New York at all. I mean, from their perspective, he was dead for a lot of years. The fact that he's returned at all is something that they would be very much adjusting to. And again, he has no authority over them.
And before we move forward, I want to do a quick recap of what just happened. Cap, Widow, and Hawkeye land in the Quinjet. Widow and Hawkeye cover Cap as he runs over to the cop, and then Cap just immediately returns to Black Widow and Hawkeye? Like, huh?
And what's the problem? He runs back over to defend his teammates. That's kind of what you do with, you know, when you're working in a team with some other people.
That's all you ran over there to do? You did this whole cool epic parkour sequence just to go talk to this one guy and come back? Did you do those same epic stunts in reverse? Like,
all I'm left wondering is where the fuck is the problem here? At the end of the day, the police officers have the access to radios and what have you. They can communicate in a way that Captain America can't. And also, he's not even used to the idea of radio as like a form of communication, so you can't use that as an argument either.
I get that you're from another time, dude, but even back then, they still had radio. Did you not have one of those on the Quinjet? I'm pretty sure Nick Fury could have done a more efficient job of giving orders all the way back from the Helicarrier.
It's not until Age of Ultron where all of the Avengers have a method of communication with each other.
Heck, even at the end of the film, you pretend to have a radio in your ear when there's clearly nothing there. But whatever, it's fine. Let's just relax and try to think more positively, because his big scene is coming up. Finally, a good moment to talk about where he does something right. The moment where Captain America finally distinguishes himself as the leader of the Avengers and gives out the orders. Except, wait. There's something wrong here. Blink and you won't hear it, but it's definitely there.
Call it, Captain. Call it, Captain.
Iron Man orders Captain America to give the orders.
Are you... Are you serious? You are not unironically making this argument. Okay, so I guess when crew members of a ship ask the captain for orders, I guess the crew members are actually the ones in charge. I guess when lower down officers ask the commanding officer for orders, that must mean that they're in charge. When random fuckers in World War II asked Captain America for orders, that must mean that they are now the captain. Oh, you are so fucking stupid, it's hilarious. This is a fantastic moment for Iron Man's character, as it shows that he now respects Captain America and is willing to step down to let Cap do his whole leadership thing. Because obviously when it comes to commanding battles and winning wars, Captain America, aside from Thor, has the most experience out of all of them. And unlike Thor, he actually has a tactical mind. So, yes, the fact that Iron Man is asking Cap for orders is a legitimately good thing, and it shows that Cap has earned his place as the leader of the Avengers.
He can't even have that. His one thing, and he doesn't even get to have it.
This motherfucker commands the Hulk to do something, and the Hulk listens. Like, that alone defeats any argument you have.
There's not much else to really even say about that. Also, at no other point in the film do they really acknowledge Captain America as an authority figure for the team before or after this moment. So, this just kind of comes out of nowhere.
He gives the team a plan, they all go off to execute the plan. Like, they're all busy doing their own things. Like, I know that they're not... Like, I'm really sorry that the Avengers aren't there to blow smoke up Captain America's arse 24/7, but if they've taken orders from him, they acknowledge him as the leader. That's the end of it.
This next major scene with Cap is probably the most offensive of all. The scene where he tries to save the civilians from the bomb. And man, he is really having a hard time fighting these nameless minions.
These nameless minions that almost certainly have superhuman biology just like Captain America, in addition to weapons that are very much futuristic from our perspective. I mean, fuck, these same weapons, when used by someone like Vulture, you know, when he reversed engineered the technology later on in Spider-Man Homecoming, his wingsuit and what have you, which was created from these aliens, could give Spider-Man difficulties. So the fact that Captain America is struggling is very believable. Especially since in this own film, Chitauri could give Iron Man some difficulty, and in enough quantity, they could even cause pain to the Hulk. Like, yeah, I'm really sorry that Cap isn't no-diffing every opponent he comes across.
He can barely take out just the 3 that are here. Again, just 3 faceless minions. Again. He's putting everything he has into winning this fight, and he nearly dies. He doesn't even really save the civilians. The bomb went off in the building. He was just lucky that it didn't have a large enough blast radius to hurt anyone. He gets blown the hell out of the window, and then he gets all sad. He's probably just embarrassed because of what just happened. What's even worse is that this is his most significant scene in the entire battle. Thor, Hulk, and Iron Man wipe the floor with the Chitauri. Black Widow gets to hijack a chariot and close the portal. Even Hawkeye gets to fly the Quinjet. He takes out Loki's chariot, and he also acts as an eye in the sky, directing the flow of the battle. Captain America gets ordered to order and barely takes out this random trio. It's easy to imagine dozens of other trios and dozens of other buildings doing the exact same thing. Couldn't they at least give him some kind of alien general for him to fight? Maybe they could utilize his leadership skills to continue to rally the military and police. Maybe all the other Avengers get worn out and consider giving up, but then Cap gives an inspiring speech to revitalize them and boost morale. It would give him a chance to show off his unyielding endurance. They could even do a nice callback and have him say something like, "We could do this all day." Or maybe, "Avengers assemble," just something to justify him being there. Since there's nothing he does in this battle that any other Avenger could also do just as well, if not better.
I'm sorry that I left the video play a long time without one of my segments, but I just can't even begin to, like, put it into words, just all the things wrong with this. Like, how the fuck would he be able to command the Avengers during this battle? They're all off doing different things. Like, Iron Man is flying around the fucking city, etc. And like, even in... And like, in Age of Ultron, we literally do get a scene like that, where Cap does give an inspiring, like, moment, I guess. It's not exactly a speech, but the reason it makes sense in that film is because they get a brief break in the battle. But in the 2012 film, they don't really get that. It's basically just constant fighting. Also, you unironically think that Hawkeye and Black Widow would do a better job at saving these hostages than Cap would. Cap has superhuman biology, and even he's struggling to get out of the grips of these fucking guys. As soon as Black Widow or Hawkeye gets grabbed by one of those guys, it's all over. They would have died with the blast radius. Funnily enough, Cap also takes a shit ton of damage even when he blocks the blast with the vibranium shield. Like, no, Hawkeye and Black Widow are getting one shot. Like, that's fucking stupid.
Maybe, since they skipped over the Hulk learning to become a team player, they could have a scene of Cap being the one to figure out how to make the Hulk finally cooperate. There are countless possibilities. But no, instead we get scenes like this.
Captain America is the only Avenger in the MCU that has successfully given Hulk an order that he actually obeyed. So, how is this any less impressive? The Hulk isn't exactly a complicated character. Cap essentially gave him the order to do what he always does. He's just like, yeah, we're gonna do all these complicated tasks, Hulk, you run around and do your own Hulk thing. Like, it's really not that complicated.
Where Cap and Thor fight side by side, only Cap gets wrecked and Thor makes it look easy.
Almost as if Thor, the literal god of thunder, is a more powerful character than base Captain America. You are making yourself look so silly right now.
Thor has to check in on him like he's a child, and likewise has to ignore him when he gets defensive.
What? Thor literally acts like a good teammate for the first time in his fucking life. Which, if anything, shows development for his character, since he was at odds with Captain America and the other Avengers earlier on in the film.
Everything special about you came out of a bottle. What is special about Captain America in this movie? He isn't powerful, he isn't smart, he can barely win any of his fights.
He isn't powerful? Well, he holds his own against Loki and doesn't die, something that Black Widow and Hawkeye couldn't do. He isn't smart? Well, sure, compared to someone like Iron Man, but that's not his area of expertise. In terms of battle intelligence, he's the only Avenger that actually gave the Hulk an order that he followed, since Hulk actually has respect for Cap and he became the leader of the Avengers. And in terms of not winning his fights, almost as if Cap fights people way above his weight class all the fucking time.
And he gets continually disrespected by both his peers and the general public. I am very much a fan of classic Marvel Comics, and I am very much a fan of Captain America as a character. This character represents what it means to be a true leader. What he lacks in power, he makes up for in resolve and endurance.
Oh, you mean like Cap from the first Avengers? Where he's not the most powerful Avenger on the team, nor the most powerful fighter in the city, yet he still has unrelenting, like, endurance and resilience?
He's supposed to be the hero that keeps fighting when others go down. He's supposed to be the hero that pulls strength out of others, even the strength they didn't know they had. He should be smart and mature, only fighting when he needs to, not arguing like a child when someone says something rude.
Oh, you're still making this fucking point. You didn't watch this film 800 times. Like, it is so fucking obvious that all 6 Avengers, including Nick Fury, are under the influence of the Mind Stone in that scene. Like, you didn't watch this film 800 times. You just didn't.
If all the other Avengers are arguing amongst themselves, he should stand out as a voice of reason. If he's in over his head, he should still be cool and collected.
I think a literal alien invasion is a little in over his head for a twat with a frisbee. Especially since he keeps his calm, he keeps his resolve, and he gives the team a fairly successful battle plan. So, what's your point again?
He should know how to delegate. His leadership is a weapon he uses just as effectively as his shield. He's a super soldier. A fight with an average man should very much be an easy task for him. Oh, but he just got trapped in a bad angle where he couldn't get close without getting shot. Well then don't write it that way. If you want a hero to be inspiring, or even just likable, don't make him struggle at performing an easy task.
Or how about this, if you want to make a character truly likable, make them struggle at day-to-day life but make them never give up. Like, that's the only way you can do that. I mean, a character like Spider-Man, for example, has a dogshit life, but the reason why people love him is because he never quits, even when he very well should quit in the face of reason.
Just because you can't think of anything better for him to do. And if you can't think of anything better for him to do, then you're the wrong person for this job.
And if you can't understand what they are blatantly telling you in scenes, even though you've watched this film quote-unquote 800 times, then you are the wrong person to review this film. Sorry, not sorry. You did a shit job, my friend. But anyways, guys, that's all from me for today. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Consider tuning into the live streams once in a while where we play superhero games and have a chat about superhero stuff. And if you like, feel free to join the Discord server where you can chat to us outside of YouTube videos. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.